Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nix coming back with another bullseye of a vocal tutorial here today. I got one that I had a lot of fun with, and I think y'all gonna vibe with heavy and learn a lot from. I got the Jack Harlow preset right here. So let's go ahead and not waste no time. Let's get right to it, and let's hear what it sounds like with and without it, and let's start dropping these gems. Let's not waste no time. Let's get to it. I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice I give a sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons. I got plaques in the mail peak season. Shout out to my UPS workers, making sure I receive them. You can do it too, believe it. I've been throw up a... All right, so let's go ahead and listen to it, what it sound like without it. That was me trying to do my best Jack Harlow impression. So let's hear what it sound like without it. Dramatic difference on the chain. I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice I give a sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons. I got plaques in the mail peak season. Shout out to my UPS workers, making sure I receive them. All right, so as y'all can hear, a very, very dramatic difference. I feel like I slid this one, and let's jump right into the tutorial. So the very first thing, as an engineer, when you're trying to like get a certain sound, particularly like the mainstream sound, or just kind of get that like bright, sparkly sound. I know that all of y'all want it. First of all, I want to say something. That sound is not necessarily appropriate for everybody. I'm just letting y'all know that right out the gate. Everybody wants the crispy, clear vocals, but whenever you doing the song, you gotta always figure out like, is this appropriate or not? Because some songs need to be dark, like the vocals need to be dark, and some need to be brighter, depending on like the source material and depending on the beat, right? You gotta listen to the beat first to figure out how you finna build your vocal too, right? And also, you got to also think about, doing a little research, like what equipment they're using. So as I was doing my little, vocal chain, I started looking around, right? I watched the video. I saw that Jack was rapping into the Telefunken 251, the same microphone that everybody's going crazy about right now. I see a lot of people trying to talk about the equipment, but they're not talking about what's in the equipment. It's the actual components and the parts that give it that discrete sound, right? So I did a little research, right? And you can do this too with the microphone you got right now. I went on Google, typed it up, whoop-de-whoop, and I found the frequency response of the microphone, right? So I was like, okay, I'm making my little observation. This is what you should do too. Even the microphone you got right now, punch it in Google and pull up the PDF and be like, maybe that's why my vocals sound so dark, because there's such a huge roll off on the top. Or maybe that's why my vocals sound so boomy, because there's a boost at a resonant frequency. Like some people, y'all have microphones that are made for other instruments. So you got to do a little research and look into your equipment, your tools. You got to maximize your tools, right? So getting back to Jack's microphone, I was like, okay, like I'm making this little observation. I'm seeing the topology is the tube topology, right? And I understand what the tube topology, right, is. It's adding harmonics to the low mid-range, right? And I'm like, I'm putting two and two together, right? That's why the mainstream vocals sound so clear and crispy and thin, but still got some meat to it because of the components. It's the tube that's giving that saturation in the low mid, that's giving it that beef, right? When you do have like a tube compressor, a tube microphone, or tube equalizer, just running the signal through the tube is automatically gonna give it a little bit of meat, because that's just the type of harmonic content that literally tube adds in, right? So we're looking at the graph and I'm like, okay, I see, it's making sense to me why, all these mainstream vocals sound like this, because there's a little boost, then there's a little cut right here in the mid-range. Like I always say, the mid-range is so important. It helps the vocal stay up front, right? Then I'm like, oh, there's actually a little boost. There's a huge boost at 10K hertz. So that's why it sounds so bright, right? Because this microphone already has a little boost in the that 10K hertz, that sparkle, right? So that's why they don't
you know, mainstream engineers, they don't really need to do too much boost in EQ, which is what I always talk about, because they dependent on the components inside of the gear to do that for them naturally, right? And we also know that the tube topology has a natural rolling off of the top, right? So they can make these vocals sound so crispy and so crystal clear because of the topology of the microphone, the component in it, right? So I was being, you know, kind of smart about that, right? And then I looked into the video a little bit further, and then I was like, oh wait, that boy Jack is sitting behind a tube tech, a pull tech. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So as an engineer, you got to do your research. If I'm looking like, oh yeah, okay, they use the tube microphone, they probably, more than likely, they probably use that pull tech too, right? And they got a little LA2A right there, 76. Okay, I'm seeing the components and what type of hardware they use, even though the hardware doesn't matter. Trust me. Regular people cannot tell the difference between hardware and a plugin. It's all coming down to you as the engineer to get it to the final destination. Don't matter if it's hardware or software. You just got to get in there and make it sound like what it got to sound like, right? So it's all about your mindset. Don't ever say, oh, because I don't have that microphone, that's why I can't get it sounding as professional and clean. So let's keep moving progressively, right? So I think a very smart thing you can do, right, is you can pull up that frequency response of the microphone, then pull up a spectrum analyzer, right? I feel like this is my biggest gem ever. I never heard anybody say this. And if I did, I would have been so happy if I would have known this. But look, what I did is I used the spectrum analyzer, not necessarily trying to make it sound exactly like Jack Harlow or not trying to make it exactly sound like that microphone, but still looking like, okay, you know, let me see what this you know, vocal is kind of giving me as I'm slowly mixing it. Okay, let me make sure my mid range is kind of balanced. Okay, let me make sure my top is how it is. And then also considering how much harmonic content I'm adding, right? Because of the reason why they can do that such aggressive, you know, cutting of the lows is because they know they got the tube is gonna give them that meat, right? They know the tube gonna give them that meat, so they keep that in mind. That's why I always try to tell y'all the parts are more important than the thing. You know, that's a $10,000 microphone. Not everybody got money for a $10,000 microphone, so I put up the spectrum analyzer, right, and kind of look at mine's.
I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't.
So I kind of literally built my whole vocal around like what that kind of looked like. Now, just know, I mean, don't really try to copy this. Use this as some game to understand what the microphone is giving them and how you can, you know, get yourself in the ballpark. You should never be trying to sound like any artist. You need to try to sound like yourself, right? And I'm gonna keep it real with you because there's nobody that can be you better than you. There's nobody that can rap or sing about your life better than you. You feel me? So don't try to be any other artist. Try to be yourself because nobody can be you, right? So keep that in your heart when you're mixing, right? And yeah, I also kept it in my head that, hey, you know, there's a lot of noise that's coming from that, probably that pull tech, and a little bit of a saturation coming from that tube mic. So let's jump into the plugins, right? So, you know, I was very delicate with how I rolled off my highs because I knew for sure that I needed the natural brightness of my, microphone, right? Because my microphone isn't giving me that much brightness. As I can hear again, let's bypass it and let's hear how dark the vocal was.
I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons.
So it's really coming down to that. You know, I kind of used it as a guide, right? Even if you can match the frequencies, don't depend on that. Just depend on the fact that, you know, it's getting you in the ballpark. It's getting you in the room. It's put me in the game, coach. That's what it's doing, right? When you make those observations and you do a little research, right? So even though my vocal was dark, I knew I had to use the little bit of natural brightness that I had. So I wasn't aggressive with the top. And I kind of did like a boost cut thing, similar to kind of how the microphone looked like, right? The next thing I did is I actually used the limiter, right? And the 3A is great, right? You can use in compressor and limiter. I have the real one, and I've never used the limiter on the hardware. I just like the way the compressor sounds. And with the limiter, you got to understand it's a very high ratio. So the compressor can be used like a trailer. It exposes everything that's going on, the ground level. Because what a limiter does is it takes the bottom signal and it pushes it up, 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 up into the ceiling. And the compressor pushes it down, it compresses it. So I use that to my advantage. And main component here was the noise. I was just stacking the noise up, 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 and up. Because I don't have a real tube microphone, and you probably don't either, right? But a part of that tube is the saturation. And let's pay attention to, you see how I went ahead and played with this little wrench right here? Even the hardware has this. It's like a high frequency response, right? So what I did is, because I want to use the little natural brightness that I have, right? Sometimes the compressor can take the top off and make it sound a little bit darker depending on what it is and how it is, right? And, I made sure I pushed it a little bit to, not trigger the highs as much, right? So I could use the little bit of natural brightness that I had to get in that ballpark like Jack Harlow. At the end of the day, you see how it doesn't really matter. If you listen to the original song and this one, is there, it's very close, right? So it's all about the moves you make and not necessarily always about the tools, right? I mainly focused on this top right here, kind of using this like as a whole de-esser. I was shaping the top of my frequency, just trying to make it smooth, That's what the tube does. It gives a smooth high end, right? So if I can understand that, hey, the tube is making the top smooth. So if I'm trying to mix a vocal like that, well, I should try to make sure that the top of my vocal is smooth in a musical way.
I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive, feel heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus.
All right, so that's what we had right there. And something I want to say about the multi-band, very important, is I just pay attention to the way it moves, right? When I'm setting the compressor, I'm trying to make my compressor move like how the flow of the rapper is. So that's something to pay attention to. Like, listen to how the top was kind of like conforming, like in a musical way. It was kind of matching his flow. I could have had a very slow release and it could have just stayed down, right? But it would have messed up the vibe of the vocal. So compression is very important to get it right. As a rule of thumb, when you don't understand it that much in the beginning, just try to make that needle bounce around like the vocal. Try to make the needle of the compressor flow like the vocal. So it's, it's giving you something that is complementing the vocal and not hurting it and holding it back, right? And next thing that we have is the RVox. This is coming down to my noise, right? I had to use the noise to get the texture that the tube that Jack's microphone had, right? So you got to use the noise that you do have to give it a little bit of weight, a little bit of fullness. So let's pay attention. I'm keeping it in check with the gates, but let me turn off my gates. So as you can see right there, very noisy. But guess what? That noise is only coming in when the vocal's coming through. So that's the thing about the tube mic. You can hear when Jack is rapping now, all of a sudden it sounds full, it sounds warm. Yeah, that's because of the way the microphone is responding to the signal, It's doing that little roll off and the tube is saturating, and depending on what tube it has inside of it, it gives it a certain sound. CLA 76, and I got it on Blackie, right? I just love the way Jack Harlow, he's just talking dirty in this song. Swag, swag, swag. So I use that to let me know that I got to use Blackie, and I got to use a slow attack to make sure that it's open, and just let's pay attention to the needle.
I can see the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive, feel heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on?
So as you can see right there, like I always say, use that needle. Is that needle moving around? Now don't get your mind stuck on that little trick I just showed you right there. Don't be like, oh well, the needle has to match the vocal. No. I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you to use the needle as a guide. Look how that needle's rocking around, because his flow is rocking around like that. He's got swag. So when I'm listening to a rapper, give me the characteristics of the vocal, I'm already thinking about, okay, I'm gonna compress it with something that's not too slow on the release, that got a little swag, not too much attack. I don't want it to sound aggressive, right? And that's why I use the 3A, right? Because I use the 3A over the 2A because the tube, topology of the LA 2A, some LA 2As have tubes Other ones have optical cells, right? Or like a photon in it, right? So it's just dependent, right? For example, like the TubeTech CL1B, that has a tube in it, right? So I use the 3A strategically, knowing that, hey, this is solid state. Solid state has a faster release. So, you know, I don't want it to kill the characteristics by having a too long release. You know, I want Jack Swag to breathe and you feel me? All right, cool. So the very next thing that we have right here is a pull tag. Oh, wait. That's like the same one that Jack had in the studio. Oh, that's crazy. It looks like I have access to something that's going to give me in the ballpark right already in my DAW. So there it is right there, you know. Y'all guys got to stop complaining. You already got all the tools right there. You just got to keep trying and keep learning and keep making observations and studying the game, and the game going to lay you back. So you got to make an observation before you even do the mixing part or the vocal. Pay attention to like, yo, this beat already got a lot of reverb. So that means I'm make sure I try to not put too much reverb on it, because I do want to give that contrast, right? It's like with the reverb, right? I like to make this example with water, right? You got to be greedy with the reverb a little bit. Imagine if you had somebody and you gave them a lifetime supply of water, which is kind of like you giving them a lifetime supply of reverb if you use too much of it, right? They ain't going to appreciate that water, bruh. They ain't going to care about that water because they got a lifetime supply of it, right? They not going to care. They're just going to be throwing it away, right? But imagine if you had somebody who was on a desert island and they ain't had a drop of water in about 2 months. Imagine when you dangle a half a little bit of water in them, in front of them, they're gonna appreciate that water. So as an engineer, you gotta make the listener appreciate that reverb. Stop giving out too much reverb. Sometimes if the beat is dry, then go ahead, give them that little bit of water. But you gotta know how much you're giving it. Pay attention right here. So what I did, H delay with a ping pong. So I got my, you know, before it even hits the reverb, it's already moving around, right? Because his voice was very monotone. It was down the middle, right? And you got to give it some movement. You got to give it some movement. You know, a part of rapping with some swag is kind of, back in 2019, I was outside, but that's kind of like being monotone a little bit, you know, having that swag, you know, as being a solid vocalist, right? So I used the ping pong to give me a little bit of movement. Then I went into the reverb, right? Which was a big haul, right? And pretty much what I did with this chain is I kind of had the reverb oscillating a little bit. Let's listen. Let's try to solo it so it can hear a little bit better.
And I can put you in, and I can put you in. Back in 2019, I can put you in. 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if frat what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming. Pineapple juice, I give sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep?
So as you can hear right there, you know, I'm making it sound more human. I'm making it go all over the place, right? Because I had to do that. You got to think about it. He only gave us a lead vocal. So as an engineer, sometimes that's all you gonna have. Sometimes you gonna only have a dime and you got to figure out how to get to $1. Sometimes you only got a lead vocal, but you still got to get to the end destination. So you got to do some stuff to add some pseudo movement. And that's what I did with this little reverb chain right here. I was adding a little pseudo movement. I could have even used the mono mod before the you know, reverb, but I was just making that reverb move around, doing some low air. You know, I had a vision when I was mixing it. It's called First Class. It made me think of a plane. When you hear a plane in the sky, all you hear is kind of like how that reverb sound. You don't ever hear a plane just be like and give you a consistent sound. So I kept that in mind. You know, prior when you mixing, you got to keep a little vision in your head. All right, next thing that we have right here is a chaotic hall that I created. Let's pay attention to this, right? And you know, I literally gotta you know, mute it so you can hear how crazy it is.
2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if frat what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming. Pineapple juice, I give sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to cut the same day as Jack Reed thinking.
So I had to do a gated haul because he gave me a vocal down the middle that was very consistent. So I got to make my own movement as an engineer. Okay, cool, Jack. Yeah, you slid it, but now it's time for me as an engineer to give them some pseudo movement. Some pseudo movement they can't even hear, but they gonna feel it, right? So we got a big reverb going into a gate, right? And let's just listen to you know, how kind of like the delays and the reverb. It gives the movement, but it's not overpowering because the beat is the one that got all the water. So you know, we had to be a little bit greedy with the reverb, but we still was able to make the reverb move and pump and breathe.
2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive, feel it, he's seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons. I got plaques in the mail peak season. Shout out to my UPS workers, making sure I receive them. You could outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive full of heat seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy.
So pay attention, right? That gate is pumping when he's doing those little short breaks, right? But when he gets to his longer lines, right, the hall starts to open up a little bit more. So it's just like teasing the listener with space, yo. To get that dense sound, I used a lot of harmonics and a lot of parallel compression.
Outside freely, but now they got it out for me. I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive, feel it, he's seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons. I got plaques in the mail peak season. Shout out to my UPS workers, making sure I receive.
All right, cool, right? So you can pay attention that it started getting brighter because the parallel compressors. Yeah, because I threw a little saturation, and this is the fresh air, 32 by 32, right? And I blended that in. So that's how you can get more brightness. Look at how I was able to make it so bright with no boost in EQ. With no boost in EQ, we made it just as bright as a $10,000 microphone. Go listen to the song and go listen to this. It's literally sounding the same, right? And a part of it sounding the same is just knowing that, hey, it's not about the equipment. It's about me and what moves I make. I was using my little trick, just looking at the the spectrum analyzer and paying attention to the frequency response of the microphone, right? Because usually when they use that microphone, there's not that much plugins they're using in the DAW. They just getting a good recording, and you got the pull tech in the back, what they got in the back, and they just vibing and they cooling it, right? The hardware is not everything. The hardware, in my opinion, it just makes you like feel better about yourself. That's all it is. It gives you more confidence, right? So if it's giving you more confidence, then you're going to mix better. But you can do the same thing with and without hardware. It's all about the final destination. Don't let anybody trick you and say, oh, you need this CL1B going into this and that. And make sure you don't forget to click my link down below. Like, that's not cool. You know what I mean? Like, we want information, and that's what I'm focused on, giving people information and not trying to BS them to buy something or no. Guys, the gold is already right here inside of you. The skills is already right here inside of you. You just got to pull it out and study and work hard, and I promise you will be making it sound exactly like industry standard. Then we have some ad-libs, so very special. I didn't play the ad-libs at all because I wanted to show you guys how I go about cutting ad-libs. What I do is I would listen to the music, right? Because I can pay attention to the fact that the piano is on the right-hand side. So just for the first ad-lib, I kind of don't like how it sounds like in stereo. I'd cut it out. Bam, let's keep moving.
City from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me. Why they got it out for me? I don't care if rap what you was in, you can't out for me. Keep dreaming, pineapple juice, I give a sweet, sweet, sweet semen. I know what they like, so I just keep cheesing. Hard drive, feel it, he's seeking. Try to come the same day as Jack Reed thinking. You don't need Givenchy, you need Jesus. Why do y'all sleep on me? I need reasons.
See, in a situation like that, I hear that this is kind of distracting me from the breath, that impact that Jack gave when he did.
I need reasons.
So I would take that out. That's kind of how I go about cutting my ad-libs. I'm taking out whatever is distracting, and I'm keeping whatever is bringing in value. And with the ad-lib chain, nothing crazy. REQ, going into a 3A, going into RVox, going into a CLA, and I'm actually distorting it. That's how you know it's a good analog plugin, when you can hit the red lights, because that's what they always used to do. And then, pull tech, this is like the command center. It's kind of affecting the signal that's going into all of these other ones, right? Irregular delays, a limiter, a fuzz box for texture, nothing crazy and nothing too much to talk about, but it definitely helped out. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. I really do appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Appreciate y'all now. Peace.